Have you ever wanted to know what it would be like to live for so long, but only come alive after a star enters your chest cavity and ignites the flame of sentience, causing you to feel happiness, sadness, curiosity, remorse, regret, confusion, and did I mention sadness? Well, if you did, your name may or may not likely be more of a designation than a name because you would be a construct or forgeheart called RO. Our perpetually perplexed by human nature protagonist is someone that you will fall in love with immediately. Their story is what we follow in Rise of the Forgehearts, and it is one that I've had the great pleasure of experiencing. So, if you're looking for a tale filled with mystery, burgeoning consciousness, betrayal, and resolve, then sit back, buckle up, and let's dive into Rise of the Forgehearts. What's going on, everyone? My name is GMB, otherwise known as Gentry, and the book we have on deck today is one that I had received from the author directly. Emily Huffman graciously sent me a copy of Rise of the Forgehearts, and I gotta say, from the start, I was and still am honored to have received it. And look, she signed it! What caught my attention most about Rise of the Forgehearts was for sure the premise of constructs coming to life, and what happens to a nation who has spent the last 14 years dependent on these helpers, and suddenly finding themselves with sentient beings, asking the most damning questions of all. Why? Why do we feel? Why do we question? And why are you looking at me? It'd be like Siri suddenly gaining sentience and asking us why we needed to know the time and temperature in Bosnia when you, David, are located in Wisconsin. Rise of the Forgehearts tackles the biggest questions that have been asked many times throughout the last 40 years. What happens when the machines can think for themselves? Terminator touched upon this most famously along with iRobot, Chappie, and a host of others that offer their own answers to the question. Rise of the Forgehearts, I feel, stands out from these. One, most importantly, it's a book. It's not a movie. Different media entirely. And two, you live this story from the point of view of RO, who is finding out for themselves what it means to be alive. At the beginning, we get to see a bit of how the constructs existed before the awakening, with orders and directives playing out in their heads. RO specifically has the directive, protect the king, playing over and over in their head, while also taking in different bits of information, like the steady sound of King Hadrian's breathing, the guard rotation, and then this odd light floating down from the sky and entering their chest cavity. From there, RO's understanding of the world flips completely on their head. When given an order, they struggle to follow it and don't understand why it makes them feel as if they're going to explode if they don't move or act on what they think they should. In Rise of the Forgehearts, I found a great example of some things that I've not seen in literature very often as of late. Emily has given us a great example of the human condition in characters that, up until the beginning of the book, are not human or otherwise. Many of the thoughts and feelings that you and I have had years to recognize and regulate on a day-to-day basis is shown in Rise of the Forgehearts happening not only to RO, but many of the other constructs as well, and having them deal with it in real time, though this human condition example isn't limited to RO and their ilk. Let's just think about it for a moment. In a land that is filled with merfolk, dragons, dwarves, and all sorts of magical creatures, wouldn't the constructs be celebrated by the denizens of their newfound consciousness? Help them to navigate the world and teach them that things don't have to be the same as before. Unfortunately, that is not what most of these people do. A lot respond with fear, hatred, disgust for something that the constructs have no control over from the get-go. Imprisonment, harassment, abuse, and paranoia surrounding the constructs are rampant. However, in the darkness of these acts are tiny shining dots of hope, compassion, understanding. Families doing their best to make sure their newly living constructs feel like they belong by involving them in games of imagination in the backyard, or a little girl giving their construct friend a name. It's heart-wrenching and almost overwhelming at nearly every turn of the story. And I think that was done with a purpose, so that us as readers could feel closer to RO and understand what they're going through. The anxiety, the stims, the utter confusion on why people can be so blind to the truth of a matter and not seem to care at all. The life of the story, I feel, is the naivete of RO. I felt myself growing as frustrated as they did at times, and had to remind myself, hey, no, I am not a construct, I am Gentry, I am not in fact RO. Everything's fine here. Emily has given us a sense of how many layers this world truly is and can be, as well as so many questions for us as readers to ask her. Mine, for example. How exactly did they manage to build all these constructs without thinking of installing a failsafe. Don't get me wrong, I am on the side of the constructs, but unless that part of their design failed when they awoke, it seems to me like the technomancers never once thought about that. Am I glad there wasn't? Absolutely. There would be no story if that were the case, but slightly shocked about that still. Maybe that'll be a focal point Emily addresses in the next installment. Overall, I thought Rise of the Forgehearts was a beautiful story mixed with plenty of mystery, wonder, and excitement. I kind of wish we had gotten to know a little bit more of the characters. However, I am not mad that we did not. After all, those characters didn't really have anything to do with RO directly. Those RO interacted with on a normal basis, however, I feel we got to know them fairly well. I'm giving Rise of the Forgehearts 4.5 stars out of 5, and I'm waiting with bated breath for the next one. Oh, I also, before we go, wanted to share this with all of you. So my wife, she crochets, and as a little incentive for me to finish more books in 2025, she offered to make me a granny square blanket with each square representing what book I finished. It's not typical granny square, there's cool designs in them. And here is a beautiful example of the first one. Look at this. It's so pretty. See, like, it's got this whole wave going out here, and in the next one, it's gonna continue from this point and then go up like that, and it's just gonna keep kind of zigzagging like that. But that is, I cannot wait to show you guys at the end of the year what it looks like. I can't wait for me to see what it looks like at the end of the year, because I'm not picking these books myself. Some of them, yes. Most of them, I'm leaving up to fate. Speaking of which, there's one more thing to do, and that is to pick out the next book. So I've been using Spin Wheel for this. That way, it's all totally random, it's all fair, and it's all books that are on my shelf currently. Not this shelf, but the shelf back there. So let's give this a little spin. Okay. Yes, I've been waiting to read Burn the Dark since I got it at a library sale like 3 years ago. God, it was an ARC. I don't know how they got this, but I'm so glad that they did. Beautiful for my collection. Well, with a new book picked out, it's time for me to get reading. If you enjoyed my review, please leave me a like, subscribe if you want to keep up on my reviews, and I will catch you all another time. Bye!